Started. Welcome to another CybHER Conversation. We're thrilled to have you all with us, whether you are joining us live or you're watching this recording on our YouTube channel. We're happy to have you found us. Today we have a very exciting program, and I'll introduce her in just a second, but I want to start by introducing our founders, first our CybHER founders, Dr. Ashley Podorotsky and Dr. Pam Rowland, who are both professors at Dakota State University, where CybHER was founded in 2013. If you'd like to find out about CybHER, you can go to our website at cybher.org or follow us on social media. And we'll tell you more about that at the end. But today, I also want to welcome Kanthi Narukonda, who's going to be facilitating our Q&A. So if you have questions at any time during the event, you can ask them down at the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. And we'll be getting to those in a little bit. But without further ado, I do want to introduce Cecilia Marinier, and I totally said that wrong. I'm sure I was practicing my French as I was doing it. But Cecilia is an absolutely wonderful person out of RSA. She is the program director for Innovation and Scholars there, and she has a wealth of knowledge in so many different areas because of the people that she gets to interact with, and they're working with the RSA conference, which is the world's largest information security conference. So she's got a lot of information for us today, and Cecilia, I am just going to hand it off to you to tell us more about who you are and what you do.
Well, thank you so much, Katie. I appreciate that. And thank you guys all for taking the time to join us today. So I want to just share a couple of points about what's happening in cybersecurity and my path to how I got here. So I'll start with what's happening in cybersecurity. This is one of the fields that is actually resistant to any kind of economic downturn. As we are seeing so many new cybersecurity threats come from across the globe on the threat landscape, you can see that this is a field where when there is a downturn, there actually is a bigger need. So this is a great opportunity for you to get involved if you're interested in cybersecurity at all and learning more about it. So how did I get to cybersecurity? So my background is I did a undergraduate degree in political science and psychology. I then went to Columbia University to get my degree in Master's in Public Affairs. And I've always been very interested in national security issues. And so back in 2007 or so, I started working for a small boutique consulting group called Monitor 360. And they consulted with the intelligence community. And we covered all different kinds of national security issues, from everything from what's happening in the Middle East at that time to what was going on with the Mexican cartels, and then also cybersecurity. And I hadn't realized like how important cybersecurity was until I started working there. And then I realized just how much this is part of our national security. And I got very, very interested in it, because what you realize is across the globe, people have different mindsets about what is a legal or illegal action. You see somebody, for example, who might be creating code for a bot, and they think that they're just creating a bot like they're creating a gun, and then they sell it to somebody else, and then that person uses it for a ransomware attack. Well, they didn't actually use it for a ransomware attack. They just built the bot, the botnet there. And so the question becomes, you know, where are the lines? Who's actually being the culprit or the nefarious actor? And it started to really open up my mind to how different parts of the globe also thought about their own legal systems. And so this was the first time we looked at jurisdictional ambiguity. When you have somebody who is hacking from a foreign country into your country, then you now have to figure a way to actually hold them responsible in another country. Well, this just opened up a whole new genre of ideas for me personally. Like, I started getting really excited about what does it mean to be in cybersecurity? And so in 2014, I transitioned out of the consulting group and into RSA Conference. And RSA Conference, as Katie had mentioned, is the largest cybersecurity conference. It's where all of the experts go to talk about cybersecurity. And I think what's fascinating about that is you realize just how many different places people have to come from, how many different fields they come from in order to have a more holistic dialogue about what's happening in cybersecurity. And what I mean by that is RSA conference brings in leaders that are not only cryptologists, which are these people are very strong in mathematics and they understand coding. Then you have the people who are actually developers who are interested as well as developing code that's safe. Then you have people who are working in the law to make sure we have privacy and security as we sit there on the balance between the two, and how do we actually create an environment that's secure as well as providing privacy to the individual. And then you have people who, like me, coming from the social science area, who have more of a background and interest in why do people hack? What are they doing? And thinking through like how different cultures might actually impact the way that they approach the threat. So we did several studies there, which were pretty obvious about looking at, you know, how does somebody code and can you tell which country they come from based on the way that they code? So there's signal. And then you have the other side of it, which is why would they hack? What are they hacking for? What are they looking at? What kind of assets do you have that are interesting? And so this combination I got very interested in, and I realized that what I loved most about the security field is how many different kinds of individuals, different perspectives you had to have in order to actually be better at your job. And so this is where it comes into the whole part about being a woman in this field. Now, I've been here since 2007, and you're alone. Like when you used to go to the conference, you were definitely feeling like there was, you know, 10% women maximum. You felt very much a part of what the whole conference looked like. But what we've seen in the last 5 years is this extraordinary push to get more diversity in our field. And we are trying very hard as a industry to actually incorporate and bring in people from all different areas. And one of the ways that I did that from my contribution to the conference is to create this program called RSAC Security Scholars. And what we do there is we invite scholars to come to conference and to meet with some of the experts. They have special meeting times, and which is Katie and Kathy both got the chance to experience, so they can share more about that later. But what makes it special is in talking to all the directors of the different colleges across the country, I made it clear that I wanted to have people that came from different backgrounds, that had, you know, I wanted to have veterans. I want to have people that were in their bachelor program, their master program, or their PhD program. I wanted people who would focus on digital forensics or focused in on national security issues or security and privacy. So we try to bring the whole gamut. In addition, asking people to bring in people who were not traditional figures, because this is what the future of cybersecurity is going to look like. And we want to start mirroring that now. Not only that, but there's just tons of great initiatives, including what you're seeing with CybHER, there's WISIS, there's WISP. There's so many great fields out there for women to look at. And there seems to be a very big push from our industry to try to incorporate students from across the country and across the disciplines and backgrounds, because we know that this is an issue that needs to have unique and different perspectives to be able to solve the problems. It's not a silver bullet. You're not going to be able to solve this with technology alone. You have to have all these different perspectives to think through what kind of new avenues they might take. So that's what I'm doing now. And I find that to be very, very exciting. And what I can tell you is it's just a really fun field. So I'll stop here and let everybody start to ask questions or get involved in any way they want to learn more about anything else in my background or what I think about cybersecurity.
Thank you, Cecilia, for being on our conversations. So Katie and I, we met you how many months ago? In February. That'd be 6, 7 months ago.
It feels like 5 years ago, does it not? I mean, 2020.
I know, it has been so long. Nothing. Oh my God. And I have to ask you, the first question I have for you is from one of our people. You come into contact with so many different people within the cybersecurity field. Some of them like really high-ranking people, some of them really, really innovative. So who is the coolest person that you've ever met in cybersecurity so far?
Oh my goodness. That is such a great question. And I don't want to give an answer because everybody else will be like, why did you not choose me? But I'll tell you a couple of people who I think are very, very interesting. So one of them is General Alexander, and I think you guys met him at lunch with us. And General Alexander was actually the cyber commander who started Cyber Command actually at the NSA, and this was back in 2009. I think he started building this out. But what was amazing for me in meeting him was, first off, he's extraordinarily humble, but he also has just a very, very good understanding of how broad the threat landscape is. And he was very innovative in his thinking about how to build out actually push our government to think through what we might have to do in order to be cyber safe as a nation. And I think he did a great job. In fact, there's a great Wired magazine article that I'd recommend. And in it, it's all about Paul Nakasone, who's the current NSA Cyber Command Director. And he's a great person too, but in it, they give some nice background on General Alexander, but he's just super humble. He comes at it with a very unique perspective. You guys met Dmitry Aperovich. Dmitry's also an amazing individual. He actually was the one that, found the DNC hacks. He's been doing a lot of the Russian cyber security threats that came through there. I think I also introduced you to one of the leaders of WISP, who that organization is trying to get women in security and privacy. So if you're interested in law, so there's just so many people who are doing so many great things. And the other piece I do work on is the innovation piece for conference. And that's fun because every year we bring in 10 new companies who will showcase their new ideas about what's happening in the cyber. Like, there's so many people who are working on new ideas, and it's so cool to see. Oh, thanks for bringing it up, Pam. See, you guys just check in the chat box. So it's great.
So now you work with the RSA Scholars program. So what's your favorite part about this job?
Oh gosh, it's working with you guys. Honestly, the students, what's really fun is I write out to the experts and they're so excited to meet you guys. And I write out to you guys and you're so excited to meet the experts. And then I write out to people who might help us and sponsor us, and they're like so excited to help out. I just feel like it's a really unique program, which just brings goodness all across the board. I think if you're going to ask me like what's my favorite part of the actual event, it's probably that we do a dinner with all the experts. I really like that. And I also like the poster session. So we also have a session where we're showcasing all of the students' works, because one of the reasons I started the program was RSA conference is a business conference. It's made for the industry writ large. And so we will bring in people from government, we will bring in people from business, but we're kind of missing this academic area. And I wanted to make sure that students knew about what we were doing and were able to come and enjoy the 550 sessions we put on about cybersecurity during that week. So having started that was really fun. But what I realized in the process is that the industry itself wasn't aware of all the cool stuff that was coming out of the universities. So giving you guys the opportunity to actually put up posters and to showcase your work was amazing. It's like, that's also one of my favorite parts.
Now that you mentioned the 500 different sessions, I think it took me like 2 days to sift through all the sessions and see which ones I wanted to attend. There were some fantastic sessions and I was so torn because I wanted to go to different ones and they were all at the same time. And I'm like, oh man, but it was really, really awesome. So do you get to choose, like, do you play a part in choosing these sessions then?
So I work also in the area called the Sandbox, and that is the one where we bring in pretty much the DEF CON Village guys, and I love them. They're another group I love to work with. They're super fun. And for that area, for those sessions that come on the stage in that area, I work with those gentlemen and a couple of women who are part of that Sandbox program committee. But for the RSA conference, in order to keep ourselves, away, and plus really one of the best things about our community is everybody wants to give back. So we have a lot of people who actually sit on our program committee. We have about 150 people. So each track has 3 to 4 people who will actually read through the 1,800 submissions that we get per year. And they have a track and they might have to read through like 300 of them and then select 12. So that's why our sessions are really cool, because you actually are getting, hand selected, but based on the experts that are out there. It's not the RSA conference that's selecting them. But one of the things actually I do want to mention, because I think it's really fun, and I would hope that maybe we could come up with some cool thing that we could do back with RSA Conference, is we have this whole section that's now called the RSA Conference 365. And one of the things that we're trying to build out is like connection to college students along the way. But maybe it'd be really cool to actually bring in something where we connect also to junior high and high school students. So those of you who are looking at this field, I mean, it'd be really fun if we could create something together where we decided, okay, here's a topic we can all talk about, and we'll do a 30-minute session, kind of like what we're doing here, but we'll do it for our RSA Conference broad community. It would be super fun.
Oh, so. I think that'd be amazing.
I know, we got to do it.
Yeah. So what's the hardest thing that you had to do in working with cybersecurity?
That's a great question. So as you can see, I come from a social science background. So one of the hardest things for me to do was to sit down and to work with the technical team and to create language where we created a common language where we could both work together. And I think that was the part where, the technical teams, generally speaking, feel very confident in the way that they know their material. They know the little nuances of what the coding might be, or the signal intelligence, or whatever they're getting. And you come at it with the social science side and you're trying to explain, well, I can get, why would for example, the favelas in Brazil hack this way? Because what they're looking for is X and Y, and you combine the two and you come up with a good solution. Or, why would the people in Romania hack a certain way, but what they know is like, oh, well, this coding comes here and I can see that this might come from somebody from another country, right? You're going to guesstimate because you're looking at how does somebody learn how to code. And you can kind of do some of that intelligence work, but then you sit down and you give them the reason why. And so the hardest part was actually getting enough of a common language so that the person who understood like how somebody was doing something and then why somebody was doing something, so that we came together and made a solution together. That was hard. That was hard.
So you have a master's degree in public affairs.
Yes.
So has that degree helped you with your roles in cybersecurity then?
I would say yes. I mean, so a master's in public affairs is a lot like getting your MBA. So you end up getting, a full year of economics and statistics, and you get, micro, macro economics, all these different pieces that are similar, but they put the slant of like, how do you approach it from a governance perspective? And I think what I would say about my degree is that it helped me understand how the function of the business behind it. So it's kind of like when we're talking a little bit about, well, not really, we haven't talked about it, but I mentioned it, the Mexican cartels, for an example. It's like understanding their business model and then applying a regular business model to their model and seeing how that works. It's similar for cyber criminals. Like there is some definite financial motivation. So in that respect, it definitely helped. The other thing that helped was the school itself was very international. I think we had 190 countries that came to the program while I was there. And when you have friends like that from across the globe, you're constantly like, I have a friend who's in Venezuela and she moved to Brazil. And what you're doing is you're building a relationship, and it's similar to what you guys are doing when you came to conference and you meet people from all over. So that would be the benefit of having the underlying knowledge you get from school. And the other part is also just learning how to learn. I mean, this is one thing, like I am far along in my career. And so you're sitting there going, well, cybersecurity really wasn't a big thing in the 90s. It really wasn't actually. Although our conference started in 1991, it really didn't become something that was omnipresent until well into our 2000s. And so what I would say is that just my general understanding, that my broad understanding of what the world was like, geopolitics at the time, how globalization was happening, those pieces I got from college, and then I could apply to cybersecurity. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Like you said, I don't think it was really security was really not a big part until like all these big hacks. I'd say like 7-8 years ago now, with the Target and then the Equifax, and these are all like high profile hacks. And I think that's when people started taking notice, oh, we need to patch this up, we need to implement this solution, we need to do that. And so I think it really kind of just took off.
It did. It became much more commonplace once commerce started to happen through the internet. And now what you're thinking, you know, like it was kind of ironic. About a week and a half ago, I actually did a couple different interviews. I did one on supply chain hack, and also one on the hospital hack. And so these two are really, you know, these things are becoming, it's just every single piece of news you hear, it could, anything you hear about, you're talking about COVID. Yes, I can talk about a hack that goes along with COVID. Are you talking about, you know, your infrastructure that you have to get us so that we have lights in our house? Yeah, that's an ICS, that's a SCADA system, and I can talk about how there. I mean, it's just every single place, because we're so connected at this point. We have actually in the sandbox, we have this great sandbox called the Internet of Things. I have a couple great sandboxes. I don't want to, again, highlight one more. But the Internet of Things was like one of those moments about 6 or 7 years ago where you realized, holy smoke, like your tennis shoes are connected to the internet. Your doorbell is connected to the internet. Everything can be hacked. And now you're just going, oh my gosh, the landscape is just so broad. So there's always going to be a need. There's always going to be a need for somebody to do something in this field. And the other part is that because there's so much of a need, I mean, because now every industry has this, there's a job for you in anything. Like if you're interested in this field, you're going to see that every single place, the mom and pop shop needs somebody. I mean, it's just crazy to think like what doesn't need a cybersecurity specialist of some sort. It's kind of different. So
it is. And I may not be able to quote it word for word, but earlier you said the one industry that isn't affected by any economic turbulence is cybersecurity. And I think I have to agree with that, because no matter what, we need cybersecurity. And I think it's not going to change in the coming how many ever years.
Well, yeah, because our whole existence has now become so dependent on this connectivity. So we're not walking away from it. And it just makes it more interesting to think about, like, how could you start to think about before it actually gets connected, or, you know, so even if you're interested in building stuff, like, please, when you want to build something, think about like, how will this be connected to the internet? How might somebody, this is the weird part about working for the consulting group, is you always thought like the nefarious actor. You thought like, how could I actually break this? If you start breaking and then you build, it's going to be great. So yes, and it is super resistant to it's counter-cyclical, so it's great.
So based off of that, I have two questions for you.
Okay.
What do you think is the biggest cybersecurity threat, like to any business or any household?
Oh my God. Well, if you left it open and you left it like, you know, 3 weeks before the election, I would say elections. But since we're going for the household, that's a great question. I think that the SCADA systems, because we're all connected, if they are able to take down a hub area where you get your electricity sent out from, that could be very catastrophic. If you look at, you know, there's actually a really cool book that I highly recommend for the high schoolers. I don't, you know, junior highs might not like it as much, but it's called Burn-In, and it's by Peter Singer and August Cole. And this whole book actually talks about how we're bringing robotics into our life and all of the different places. So one of the threats they bring out in this book, which I had thought was a crazy threat, was that they actually took a water plant and they took a mining plant, and they had the mining plant open a gate that poured in a red substance, and the way that they connected it actually then created a red flood down the middle of Washington, D.C. And you're thinking, oh my God. And this was a cybersecurity hack because it was a SCADA hack. And you would not have thought that a water treatment system and a, you know, chemical plant system would actually connect like this. But that's what I'm saying, is we are all connected. And so that actually is probably the biggest threat. If you're talking about in your home security, all I can say to you, I promise, is please, 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 like, make sure your routers you have a secure password on your routers, do double two-figure authentication, like do the right things to make sure that you're not just keeping your gateways open and leaving yourself vulnerable to the personal hacks that might come through. And then the final piece would be your identity, like, you know, identity hacks that come from Equifax or other places that they get your identity, and then you have to go back and figure out how to reclaim your own identity. So those would be my top three.
Do you think then businesses they're understanding or they're realizing that cybersecurity is important?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, you know what is very interesting and what I'm very grateful for is I think people who are in the small to medium-sized businesses are finally getting attention. It's obvious that the financial institutions are going to have an amazing cybersecurity workforce. And you have, other bigger companies, governments obviously going to have a great workforce. But you look at even like towns, little towns, or even Baltimore, like those kind of places with ransomware attacks, that's a threat. I think what we need to focus on is that the weak link might be the small to medium-sized businesses, because those guys just don't have the kind of money to throw at cybersecurity. So they're really having to ask for help from other places. And I think that's where we can really try to find solutions for them. That's what I hope people start working on. Okay, I don't know if I answered your question. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. You did.
Okay. Oh my God, I got excited about my small and medium-sized business. I'm like, oh my gosh.
You did. It is like becoming more clear that everybody understands the importance of being like secure or securing their devices, and
right.
Generally an increased awareness about security.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what you're doing right here and talking to young women, this is key. Like if we can teach the next generation that before they jump on to some of these platforms or other places, that they think through like how can they be secure on it, that's a big win. So I love this idea. I love what you guys are doing. And there's a lot of fun things. Just as an aside, what's been really nice, I've actually had several conversations with other security scholars, and two of them are both working for high school with high school students, trying to build out programs in their high schools to help them gain skills around cybersecurity. They're doing it with community colleges. So there's one actually out of Mississippi who is targeting students that she just started. It's called Base Camp. And what she's doing is she's bringing students who would generally not go to college. And she's taking them for a year and giving them a full year of coding and training that is, to me, like just invaluable. And then they'll have a job after that. And so that's a great opportunity. There's another person that's working with Pittsburgh, inner city schools in Pittsburgh, and they're working with community colleges, and they're working with other colleges to build out these kind of programs. So what you guys are doing here at CybHER and what I'm seeing in other places, I am so excited, because I really do believe you guys are on the cusp of getting this to become almost, at a minimum, there's some common level of understanding. Like, okay, we all start here when we're 18, we at least had, some basic understanding of what cybersecurity is. And then those that want to keep on going can find paths, and the paths don't have to be, they can be in all different kinds of ways. That's the other part about cybersecurity that I really like, is that the need is so great that there's a lot of ways that you can get started in cybersecurity, and then you can keep on going. So, please look into all those fun ways, like what you guys are doing. Okay, I'm excited.
So we have a question from Katie's daughter. So is security getting better then?
Good Lord, that's a great question. So yes and no, because honestly, it's a game of cat and mouse. As we get better and more capable of defending ourselves, then our cyber actors, the nefarious actors on the other side, are getting smarter about how to get around it. And what I would say is that the more walls we can put up in small ways, then we can guard ourselves as individuals. But when there's a big prize at the other side, there's always going to be somebody who, if you have nation states hacking, it's going to be a little harder to fight that. But you don't have to worry about it in your house. Those guys are not working on you. But yes, what I would say is, okay, the good news is, yes, we are getting better because there's more awareness. But unfortunately, there's also, as we have all this access, it does, provide a bigger landscape for threat actors to take advantage of. Okay.
We're
out of time.
I know. And we have one last question for you.
Okay.
Do you have any advice for all the young people that are watching this session right now?
Yes. This is my piece of advice to you. Just being here and just thinking about this field is a great start. that please like look into. There's so many great things around you. The CybHER is an incredible resource, and use these individuals, like connect to these people, because they will help you know where to look for other degrees or how to find paths to get into cybersecurity. There are tons of cybersecurity Twitter feeds, and if you go on LinkedIn, there's all these different groups, and just go find some groups in here because it's a great field and I'd love to see more of you in it. So, and please feel free to call me, like, find me online too.
Thank you so much, Cecilia, for so many great words of advice. I especially loved when you said you aren't going to be able to do this with technology alone, because it does. It takes us people, and it takes a wide variety. So thank you. I am launching a poll for all of the participants to go ahead and fill out. That helps us just know a little bit more about who you are and how many people are watching with you. We have been thrilled to have over almost 500 people already impacted by these programs in the live programs, and we know even more online. So thank you. You can also continue to sign up for our upcoming virtual camp, the Gen Cyber Camp, that is funded by the NSA and the National Science Foundation, by going to our website at cybher.org. Follow us on social media. Next week, we are featuring Amber Schroeder, who is the CEO and founder of Parabon Corporation, which does digital forensics. So you won't want to miss that one either. And our November and December conversations are now up on our website too. So be sure to check those out because we have some very exciting guests coming up. And we hope that you all have a wonderful afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. So thank you, Cecilia, and thank you to everyone for watching.